Have you ever heard the wolf cry to the blue corn moon? Or asked the grinning bobcat why he grinned? Can you sing with all the voices of the mountains? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? To answer these questions and more, we set out to learn about wind, the force that moves us.
Wind, the force that moves us.
Wind, the force that moves us. Wind, the force that moves us.
Wind, the force that moves us.
To capture this force, scientists invented the turbine, which harnesses the power of the wind and transforms it into usable electricity. Luckily, when it comes to wind, Colorado has plenty. Chinook winds produced by the mountain barrier make the eastern plains of Colorado the perfect location for wind farms. The eastern plains could even be referred to as the Goldilocks zone of wind, if you are so bold. 14% of Colorado's electricity is produced by wind, which is enough electricity to power 675,000 homes. Colorado currently ranks 6th in the United States for wind energy output. Given that wind energy is now cheaper to produce than all other types of energy, it is clearly the future. So far, there have been about $5 billion worth of capital investments into Colorado's burgeoning wind sector to both construct and produce wind energy. We wanted to see the birthplace of some of this wind-produced electricity, so we set sail, dropping anchor in Limon, Colorado. About 2 hours east of Denver, Limon is a bustling metropolis of about 1,800 people. Limon has a turbine for every 13 of its residents, which is unlucky if you hate wind. The wind farm in Limon is run by a national company, and we were lucky enough to sit down with its plant manager, first name, last name. Unfortunately for us, Mr. Last Name wasn't able to get the necessary clearance from corporate in time for us to use his real name. Let me assure you, however, of his legitimacy and his passion for air movement. First name, last name from this point forward will now be known as Eric. Speaking with Eric deep in the heart of wind country, our minds were blown. He told us all about the wind farm, which contains 139 turbines that power 80,000 homes using 252 megawatts of energy. Unfamiliar with the scale of a megawatt, we were informed by Eric that it's a freaking lot. In fact, 1 megawatt of energy is equal to 1 million watts. To put that in perspective, the average light bulb produces only 100 watts, or 1/10,000th of a megawatt. Multiply 1 megawatt by 252, and my Lanta, that's a lot of energy. The blades that produce this ginormous amount of energy are quite girthy themselves. The blades at this farm are 44 meters long and move 140 miles per hour at the tips. This wind farm in Limon is just one example of Colorado's growing acceptance of wind energy, and we are all big fans of that. We were blown away by what we saw in Limon, but when we heard about a sustainable Walmart, we thought they were just blowing hot air. I'm sitting under one of the 2 turbines that powers a sustainable Walmart. Is this too good to be true? That would really blow. So we ventured into Walmart to take a look for ourselves. On the inside, this might look like a normal Walmart. But could this be a sign of the marriage to come between big business and sustainability? We went to talk to a Walmart manager to find out. Not. After being passed from employee to employee at Walmart like a bacterial disease, we finally had the opportunity to speak with Walmart's loveliest manager, Olga. Unfortunately for us, Olga was tight-lipped about the sustainable energy program in place at this icon of American capitalism. So we decided to do some digging ourselves on this too-good-to-be-true sustainable Walmart. A study by the Renewable Energy Laboratory on the sustainable Walmart found that the wind turbine was an experimental system and had repeated problems that caused it to be out of operation more often than not. When the system was operational, it performed far below manufacturers' expectations, which were based on inflated estimates of available wind resources. Although there were issues with many of Walmart's sustainability initiatives, its wind turbines were the biggest underperformers. Does this mean that wind energy is too good to be true? Some, like Olga, may think so. One of the biggest knocks on wind energy is its supposed destruction of birds and bats, eagles in particular. The possibility of murdering the very symbol of the greatest country on earth has made some companies think twice about going into the wind energy field. According to LiveScience.com, wind turbines kill more than 570,000 American birds each year. But according to Eric, Lyman's birds are surprisingly not dead. Eric informed us that the site in Lyman went through a biological study a few years back, and the amount of avian casualties was actually very small. He went on to say that sites positioned under avian migration patterns experience a somewhat worrying amount of avian deaths, but the production of technology safer for birds is one of the major focus areas in the wind energy field. Besides dead birds, there are other environmental impacts of installing and maintaining a wind farm. First and foremost, wind farms are usually the result of fossil fuels. From making the turbines to transferring them via diesel-expelling big rigs, the process of installing green and clean energy is often black and smoky. That being said, wind energy, once up and running, is much more sustainable and much less environmentally destructive than energy produced using fossil fuels like oil and coal. Another problem with wind energy is the fact that the source is often far from the people who need it. Since most wind farms are in the middle of nowhere, long transmission lines must be built from the site of the turbines to the cities and suburbs that suck up so much electricity. Eric told us that the growth of wind energy is slowing, and he knows exactly why. The C word. Congress. With oil companies so deep in the pockets of members of Congress, it comes as no surprise that the support for wind energy is waning. When asked how wind energy could make gains in the energy field, Eric suggested government incentives, such as tax cuts.
To gain more insight into wind energy and its future in Colorado, we sat down with DU Sustainability Coordinator, Dr. Chad King.
From an energy perspective, wind makes the most sense in terms of its cost, since it is the cheapest of the renewables. Across the plains and so eastern Colorado, wind will increasingly be one of the biggest producers, just because, again, of that cheapness factor and on a large scale. What a big wind farm can do is pretty impressive in terms of total energy. So I think we'll continue to see wind grow pretty quickly in parts of those large scale farm countries. I think it will across much of the. I mean, again, it's wind dependent. I mean, wind is time dependent, and wind is typically produced more during the evening when demand is lowest, and so that makes for sort of an off-balance grid. So the advent or the increase of use of storage devices like Tesla's home battery will be pretty key, I think, to having wind totally replace coal. But it definitely is now in a lot of places across the Midwest, the West, and the South. It is now cheaper to produce wind energy per kilowatt hour than it is to produce coal. Once it's built, it's fairly easy on the maintenance side. And really, it increasingly, I mean, we see more and more jobs being created in that realm too, so there's a definite benefit to the economy that way. I believe the latest I've seen is that in wind and solar, we now have more jobs than we do in coal already. So it's definitely part of that transition.
From an economic perspective, the wind industry is currently responsible for as many jobs as the coal industry. With 23 active wind energy sites in Colorado, companies are paying over $17 million in property taxes to the Colorado government and $8 billion in annual land lease payments. Wind energy has been an economic and environmental benefit to Colorado, a state as infamous for its dependence on coal as it is for its herbal medicine. Though there have been hiccups with its implementation, murdered eagles and failing business experiments cannot stop the powerful momentum of wind energy. With topography perfect for wind production, Colorado is the prime location to refine wind technology before it blows across the nation.